Hi, I'm Robert Benson with Heirloom Custom Homes, and I was gonna show you how to set a door real quick. Some people choose to do their own trim, want to set their own doors, or maybe replace one, or a little project at home, or whatever. Thought maybe this would be useful. It's the way I do it. It's the best way I found to do it. There's no levels, none of that involved. It's quick, it's easy, outcome's good every time. So first, you want to unwrap your door. Usually there's a ton of staples in the outside. The more of those staples you can pound down or get rid of, the better, especially where your hinges are, where you're gonna be stuffing shims in later. So, depending on your flooring, sometimes I'll cut the bottom off the frame of the door so that the door will set a little lower, looks a little nicer, a little more custom. At this point your opening pretty much is what it is, but hopefully you got a relatively square and plumb opening. So what I like to do is I stick the door in the hole. So you get the bottom pretty much lined up with the wall where it goes. And then got this little thing that holds the door shut. I pop that out. Maybe. That one was difficult. Slide the door into the hole, then I use either a 15 gauge or a 16 gauge trim nailer. I start with the hinge side at the top. I line it up with the sheetrock. I put my nails behind where the door is going to close. And I push this side all the way over to the framing. I do the bottom on this side and line it up with the outsides of the wall to the outsides of the frame. Pop a nail in there. Come over to the top on this side, line it up, pop a nail. Leave the bottom loose on this side because I want to be able to see that the door stopper on the inside of the frame is hitting flush with the door. I don't want it to be a quarter inch away at the top and hitting at the bottom or vice versa. So I leave that loose, and then when I close the door, being that this is a closet, it's harder for me to be on both sides of it. I push it shut, and when the door hits at the top here, and it's hitting at the bottom there on the stopper, both spots, then the plane of the door is flat on the frame all the way around. So then I put the nail on the bottom on this side. And usually your opening is a little bigger than the door frame, the frame that way, but a lot of times when you're adjusting the door, you'll take up that opening, so don't be afraid to just push it all the way over. Pop a nail in there, and then I close the door, and I look at the space that I have on the hinge side, the reveal between the door slab and the door frame. And for instance, and typically, I'll have a smaller space here and a bigger space on the open side, which is good. When it's the opposite, you just gotta do the opposite of what we do here. So anyway, just to get myself a little space, what I'll do is I'll slip a shim in. I know that the screw that I'm going through is right in the center of this hinge. So I put my shim at the center of the hinge. You want the screw that's most inside of the metal. So I just give it a little space there with the shim. Plus it helps hold it in there for me. And then take my screw gun. They give you 3 screws for 3 shims, or 3 hinges. I pull the center screw on all 3. I've already got my shim in the top one. You gotta have a way of holding that shim, because when your screw hits it, it'll spin that shim around and it won't be where you left it. So I used another shim just because they're easy and they're in my pocket. And I stick it through there and I hold that shim in place. Tighten that one down, shut the door. I look at my reveal, I got about an 1/8 inch there, and I got about a small quarter here. So that means that I need to put shims in the bottom hinge, and that will cause the door to lift. Again, going right in the center of the center of the hinge, so my screw goes right through the shim, and it'll be bending that frame a little bit because I put a nail in that bottom down there. Don't worry about that yet. I need a little bit more to get even, to get the same distance here as here, so I give it a little bit more. And then typically, like, you want to go a little more than you need, because when you put the screw in and you suck that hinge over, it'll actually be a little bit bigger of a gap than what you had when you just stuck the shim in. So it goes a little extra. I start getting to where I get more than half of the shim in. I like to be able to have a shim coming from both sides to keep my frame square. It's not essential, but sometimes it helps. So I'll put some in from the other side. Okay. I use a bucket, it's easy to carry around. So anyway, now I got a full 1/8 there, slightly less than an 1/8 here. Now I'm ready to put my screw in. Even though you shot it with the trim gun to keep it flush with your drywall, your frame, before you put the screw in, make sure it stayed where you wanted it. Okay, now that that screw's in, we can release the tension. I don't know if you can see this in the video, but this frame is sucked way over here where I put that initial trim nail in. You just take a flat bar or a shim and pound it in there and just back that off on your nail a little bit so that the reveal here is the same, which you'll probably have to adjust it again, but you want the reveal there to be the same as here and here and here and here and here, all the way up. So now that I've got those two, I check the top of my door. My reveal is the same. My frame sits down on the floor. And now I'm looking at how much space do I have between the door slab and the door frame at the hinge and at the top hinge, because I want them to be pretty much the same when I do the middle hinge. So I got a slightly bigger gap there, a little bit tighter here, and I'm a little tighter in the center hinge. So I'll put a shim behind the center hinge and just put a little bit of pressure on it so that when I put a screw in it, that gap right here ends up the same as that one. shim that I put on the bottom on this side, I pulled it out because it was giving me a little back pressure. The door was pushing back against me, which means that maybe the sheetrock's uneven or something, but it was twisting that frame just a little bit. Now that I got that center screw in, or that center shim in, I want to put that screw in. Use the shim to hold it. And then I want to check my spacing. So now I got the same amount of space between my frame and my slab here, same here. And it's a little tighter here, but there's really not much I can do about it. If 2 out of 3 are good, I can pull my pressure off of there a little bit and even that out. Good. Then, after you put that screw in, the center screw can change the tip of your door, like we leveled this out. So I want to look again and make sure that my reveal is the same, which it is. It looks good. So now I want to keep that same reveal between my hinges, the top, the bottom, in between the hinges. So I look at where that is. If it needs a shim, I put in a shim. And I just pop a trim nail through the inside where the door will hide it. And I look at the bottom. The bottom's pretty good. I want it to stay about where it is. The bottom between the 2 hinges. So I just slip a shim in there just loose enough to hold it. Pop a trim nail through it. So now, again, I want to be sure that my space here is the same as all the way down, which gives me this space here, because the door is the size the door is, the top of the jamb is the size the top of the jamb. If my spacing is uniform here, that gives me the spacing here. Now this is the spacing I'll use for down this entire side. So since I have that nail at the bottom down there, I'll put my shims in at the latch first, because the pressure of the board will hold the shims for me. Okay, and then I make sure that my spacing here and here is equal. Sometimes the manufacturer has this top of the jamb a little short, so your space here is kind of close, and you might need to leave a little bit bigger space here for your latch to function smoothly, which you'll never see, but ideally you want it to be the same. So now that I've got the same spacing top and bottom, I put it right behind where the latch goes, and I'll shoot this nail where the latch will hide it, but don't go center, top, and bottom where you're going to hit it with a screw. So you stay out of your way. And if I like it, I'll put a second nail in it, which I do. Those are 2 nails we don't have to try to fill in and paint. So now I got the same spacing there as I do up there. Now I need to bring this bottom over, which depends on how much space you need to make up. Sometimes it's easier to do it slowly with a shim versus just priming over with a bar. So in this case, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pound shims in there until I got it over where I want it. your reveal. Got a long way to go. Okay, getting close. Actually, I'd say we're right about the same. So we want the same distance again. Here, there. That's pretty good. I can live with that. So now that I have that where I want it, even though it already has a nail in it, I'll put a second nail in. It's way down by the floor, easy to hide. But before you do, you want to make sure that you kept the door hitting the stopper same top and bottom. Okay. And now you fix it in place. So now you can either leave the rest of it for when you put your casing on and use your casing to straighten it, but I like to put a nail in it and get it right where I want it because then I can use less nails in my casing. Which is more visible. The nails in the casing are more visible than the nails in the door jamb itself. So then I'll just go through and I'll shim. Once there, once down here to get the same reveal all the way around. My door stops wherever I put it. It doesn't want to swing shut, doesn't want to swing open. On this one, I'm getting a little bit of back pressure. It takes just a little bit of effort to close it that last little bit. So sometimes you just gotta play with it. I'll probably go through and just loosen my pressure on the back side of the jamb and that should fix it. But sometimes if you're getting that back pressure, it's because your center hinge is out of align. But if you just play with the door a little bit, push it and pull it and watch where it flexes, you'll find the spot that's giving you trouble. So for the sake of not making the video any longer, I hope that helps. I don't know how long that took. You can see how long it took on the video, but typically I can get going where they even go faster than that. But it's a quick, foolproof way to set a door, get a great result every time. You don't need to fight with levels and pulling squares and tape measures because none of that matters. It doesn't change it. The door is square. If you use that for your reveal all the way around when you put your casing on, your miters come together good. It's square, it's great. So anyway, I'm Robert with Heirloom Custom Homes. There's your door tutorial. Thanks for watching.